All right, so we're back in the basement, and you may recall on this series, this is a boiler system that I have treated with the 8-way treatment system, which is supposed to prevent rust and stuff like that from accumulating. It's not perfect, but it works pretty well. Just want to show you, we're moving into the winter season here in Ohio. It's late to mid-October, and the temperatures have been getting down into the 50s and 40s kind of overnight. So just to take the briskness off, we're going to fire up the boiler ahead of time before the main part of the winter comes. And I recommend doing that just in case there's something wrong with the boiler, small leak or something like that. Fire it up kind of like in October, give it a once over, let it run and see how things go. So that's what I'm going to do here today. My building is about 3,000 square feet-ish. And this is a small to getting into the medium-sized boilers. It's really not that big. It's just an office complex. So it's not like a shopping center that a lot of, heating and cooling is necessary. So, and it's a radiator fed with a forced air component on some of the radiators as well. So I just want to turn around and let's take a look and see what the water looks like just from having sit for the whole summer. Basically, I turned the boiler off in the spring and then I restart it in the fall. So nothing at all has been running on the boiler all summer long at all. And a lot of that sediment and stuff probably has settled. I went ahead and down at the bottom, right here, I went ahead and bled this just a little bit, and that's the lowest sacrificial point on the whole boiler. And that's what that's for, is the bottom drain portion of the boiler. So, and it was nice and clear. So let's take a look at the viewing glass, which is also nice and clear. And what I like to do is start it up, drain the boiler just a little bit, just if you get any kind of like sediment and stuff in here, get that out of the system and see what it looks like. And then if everything looks, standard, pretty good, nice clear water in the tube, that kind of thing, fire it up, because this is going to create a lot of steam and pressure, and it'll probably stir things up quite a bit. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to take a look at the looking glass, fire it up, let it run for an hour or so, see what this looks like, and then take it from there. Okay, so here's the front of the boiler. It's a peerless boiler, and it's about 20 years old or so. Gets serviced every year, and the state of Ohio comes out and takes a look at it. And here is the little glass. As you can see, right there is the normal part. You see right there on the boiler, it says that's where you want your water level to be. And we're right out there. You can cheat a little bit by moving the phone, but we're right in that acceptable range of where it should be. You don't want to have too much water in the boiler, and you don't want too little, okay? Because you can actually put too much in there and it'll, basically flood itself. It's not good. You want to have enough room for the expansion of that steam to work its way through. You don't want to have just water in there. So, but look how nice and clear. Really nice and clear. So we're going to start this up, and you can also check the this port here. What you do is you open this little gate control, and a little sediment usually kind of drains out of the bottom of this little safety port right here. That's a safety mechanism. But yeah, so let's take a look and see how it does. Okay, so I told the thermostat to send a signal down to the boiler. Sounds good so far. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. They're all firing up. Good color. A little bit of a red on the one, a little flash there, but looking pretty good so far. I recommend having this thing serviced. I mean, they say once a year, at least every other year at the very least. And like on those burners, you can have them come out, or you could do it, I suppose, if your state allows you to. But these things are regulated, so check your local state. But it doesn't cost that much to have a tech come out, make sure everything's looking okay, and they'll scrape off the carbon off the little tubes in there that provide the natural gas to start boiling. But this thing is probably going to take around 15-20 minutes or so, and it'll get up to that boiling temperature. And then what you're going to do is you're going to want to listen for any kind of hissing, pops, anything out of the ordinary. It's not firing up like it's supposed to, so that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna guess that water right there, once it has a chance to circulate through and become steam, and then get worked through all the pressure, that water is gonna turn a little cloudier. So the game plan is gonna be, if that happens, maybe wait until the boiler is completely off for a few hours anyhow, drain the water, and then replace it with a little bit of fresh water and put some of the 8-way in again, see how that goes. So this is just how you check to see if there's any impediments in here. This is a water shut off control valve. So it's got some gunk in there, and that's okay. That's to be expected because that's a low point. See how it kind of turns clear right away? That's fine. But you want to make sure, you want to test that every once in a while, just to make sure that that's nice and clean in there, because there's like a little mechanism in here, a float or what have you, that will tell the sensors to either shut the boiler off or not, depending on if something is going wrong in the boiler. So, and I went ahead and I did that, and as you can see, we stirred up a little bit of sediment. See that? Nice and clear, 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 and then there's a little jazz right there. So that's what you're gonna get out of there. So once this thing gets up to temperature and the boiling point of water and all the bubbles get through there with the steam, this is gonna turn cloudier for sure. This is normal. So hopefully we can get some of that gunk out of there, but that's inevitable with cast iron. You're gonna get some rusting and stuff. It's natural, it'll happen to every boiler. So, but as you can see, it's kind of, you can actually see my hand through there a little bit. See that? It's not a sludge, so it's kind of like just little particulates. I find that to be acceptable. If somebody else disagrees with me, and again, I'm in Northeast Ohio in the Cleveland area, so take it for what it's worth for my circumstances, that we leave these things sitting for basically 6 months during the summer, from spring to the fall, late fall. And then like in Ohio, you got to get these things inspected, and they get certified by the state for boiler inspection. That's mandatory. And you pay a small fee, 50, 65 bucks. It goes up 5, 10 bucks, it seems, every once in a while, every year or so. So something like that. Probably this year it'll be 70 bucks or whatever. But they come out and they take a look at it. They check all these control devices. On the other side of the boiler, I had to actually get this changed, and this is, I don't know, like a 15-pounder or something like that. And what that does is if there's too much pressure in the boiler itself, it'll let out some of that, some of that steam here. So it's just kind of like a little one-way valve right there. So, and I always leave like the tags and stuff on here, because it shows the inspector what's been done, and you can kind of document stuff. And if you have to change it, then you also know like what kind of valve it is for easy parts to go replace them. So, but so far so good. You can see the boiler down there is flaming up really good. The older your boiler gets, here, let me move this out of the way. It is flames underneath there after all. But the older your boiler gets, you'll have more and more sediment that settles inside of the little chambers in there. Let me give you an idea of what a chamber looks like. This is an old one. This is from 30 years ago. So, and they rust out. Now listen, this thing's been sitting here for 20 years. I just kept it because I thought it was a cool. But inside of these boilers are these sections, and they literally stack them kind of like sandwiches, in a row. So inside the boiler itself, you'll have a section here, 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 and they can make them, you know, bigger or smaller depending on what size model of the boiler you have. And then that gives you more capacity and more BTUs and more heat and all that jazz. But look how this looks. So these, you know, from the bottom, the flames come up, right? And you can see that there's a hole on the bottom and a hole on the top, or this might be upside down, I don't know. But it will literally crumble with rust and stuff over time. Now this one's been sitting here for 20 years. This is the old one that was replaced by my new boiler. So this piece of the boiler is from a very, very old boiler, but it's basically the same thing. You're just boiling water inside of these, I don't know, jackets, I guess, or something. If anybody knows the proper term, let me know. And like, look at all these little points here. You see all these nipples kind of things that are sticking out here? That's surface area for the heat to get up in there to heat this puppy up, and it boils that water and sends it out to the radiators, and then the cold water in the return pipe just goes down into the bottom pipe. I think that's the bottom, I think that's the top, I don't know. Don't crucify me if I'm wrong. But they're just cast iron, so keep that oxygen out of the system. That's why it's so important that you have a contained system. If you got a leak, it's not just that you're losing a little bit of money, a little bit of efficiency, you're actually letting in oxygen. And water has oxygen in it, right? 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen atom. So you do not want to be adding fresh water into this system a lot. I do it once, maybe twice a year in the beginning or at the end of the season. So you do not want to add water to this system constantly. And if you have a leak, that's what's happening because the steam is escaping. And then every boiler has something like this, which adds a little bit of water to the system. This is an automatic turn-off valve, okay? That adds a little bit of water to the system. See that? Comes in and it gets dumped in, and that's the return pipe. See? That's the cold water being returned on the bottom, which makes sense because you want to put the cold water down there to be next to the gas, right? Next to the heat source. And then it gets burned down on the bottom and flamed, heated, whatever, not burned. And then the water turns to steam and goes out the top and then gets distributed through your distribution points, okay? So pretty cool. So that's why, if you look at it, let me back up a little bit. This one's the return, right? That's actually the water that's returning. And this one on top is the steam, because the water's heavier. So the water gets turned into steam and it goes out into the world, right? And goes into the world. And then it makes its return with the heavier water once it condenses. So once it hits your radiator out by your door or your window or wherever, it'll condense, turn back into water. It'll be hot water, but water nonetheless, not steam, and it'll get back into the system. And then it'll just repeat. And then there's the flame source in the bottom, boils the water, turns it back into the steam, goes out into the loop. They call that the loop. And then once the steam loses its energy, it condenses back into water and goes back down into the system. So if you have a leak, you'll have some type of contraption like this over here to make sure that you always have the sufficient amount of water in that thing, in the boiler. And that's why you have that little line over there that tells you like where you want your water level, right? So you can actually tell it, like, here, put your water level here, so it behaves properly and functions, efficiently, and also is not dangerous. So have it inspected every year, or so, or whatever your state recommends or does. But it's well worth it. The tech will come out, and I'm not a tech. I'm just the owner of the building, but I like this kind of stuff, so I listen to those guys and I research and I tell you my experience from operating the boiler, as the landowner, the building owner for 25 years. So take care of it. It'll take care of you. And that's it. So we got getting a little cloudier. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, so we're going to sign off. We're going to let this thing do its job and boil up, and we'll come back. All right, we've been letting this boiler run for about a half an hour, 45 minutes or so, and everything's looking really good, so I'm happy about that. I do want to show you just one little thing about the activity, I guess you might call it, and you can see that in the little sight glass. So let's turn the camera around and you can see that. Okay, so the water is boiling in there, and now you see the sight glass, and hopefully it's coming out that you can actually see what I'm talking about. And that's a little bit of activity going on in there, and the water is looking, that's pretty good. I mean, that's nice and clear, especially for the first time. I might let this, you can see a little bit of a speck right there. See that? A little bit of a speck right there. Little chunk floating around on the top of the little bubble there. And just some little particulate matter. But can you see it kind of like moving around? You know? Looks like a little test tube. Look at that. So that's what I was talking about. It's still firing underneath. That's the gas. Still firing underneath. That was the gas light going, flickering a little bit, but everything's looking really good. And this is the first day. So what I'm going to do is after the building gets up about 60 degrees up to about 70, let's say room temperature-ish, 70, 72. I'm going to shut the boiler off, let it cool until it's completely cool, because this thing is really hot and it's pressurized. So you want to make sure it's cool. I can't stress that enough. If you ever try to start, checking those valves and stuff, okay? Especially in the beginning, because there might be a little gunk in there, and if that little gunk, breaks loose and it's under pressure, man, it'll spurt out everywhere. You could get burns and stuff. It's bad. So I'm going to let this boiler cool down, cool for a number of hours, because we're just in the fall. I don't need it running all day, just to take the little crispness off in the morning. Then I'm going to do the drain again to see what the quality of that water is coming out of that drain after it's had a chance to agitate in there. I think that's kind of a good word, the agitation of the the boiling process of the water into steam and then recirculating and stuff. And there's probably some gunk up in the the lines that's bringing back down through the system, and it'll accumulate into the low points. So right there's a low point, and then sorry, I'm looking at myself in the phone. Right there is the lowest point. So that's the one that you definitely want to check. That's why it looks like that. So all the gunk, goes down right into there, and then it'll collect in there, and the water and the steam will go back in this little, U point here. So that's why that's specifically designed like that. So clear that thing out regularly, but only when the boiler is off and cool. So no heat. Maybe a little heat will be okay, if you know what you're doing. But for the safe side, just make sure it's off, really cool, and it'll, you can drain that stuff out of there. Sometimes you need to stick a little bit of a, little prod up in there, because it will coagulate after a little while, some of that sediment, depending on what your water quality and stuff is like. So I'm going to do that in a little bit and see how that goes. But it's looking really, really good. And then for good measure, I'm probably going to add one of the 8-way containers that I have. And that looks like this. I'm really happy since I've been using this stuff. I'm not at all sponsored by them. I get no kickbacks, nothing at all. It's just, I'm just passing this information on as a owner of a building who has a boiler, and maybe you guys are looking for an honest review of some of the stuff that works. So that's how I fire up my boiler, and I add that little product to it, every year or so to keep things good. All right, so I went ahead and I did a few more of those, just draining those small little Tupperware containers worth of water and getting the sediment out of there. And it's looking pretty good. It's not perfect, but you know, this is a 20-year-old system, so you're gonna get some amount of buildup and stuff like that. I'm gonna repeat this process several more times, but so far it's looking pretty good. Just gonna show you what this looks like in the Tupperware container after just doing this for a few minutes, really. So, hey, I hope you like this video. If you like it or if it was helpful for you in any respect, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel a lot trying to get to that goal of 1,000 subscribers. So we're gonna take a look and see what this water looks like real quick. Okay, I made a little mess down here because I was trying to record and also drain at the same time. But this is that main low point of the drain here. And, you know, as you can see, it's got a little bit of cloudiness to it. But that's kind of like what you might want to expect from a 20-year-old system. And the water is looking pretty good in there too. So I'm going to try to do this a few more times, like I said, and then probably add some 8-way and see how it goes. Okay, so we've given this about a day or so, a couple days of running and whatnot, and it's looking pretty good, actually. I'm going to turn this around. It has just a little bit of brown in the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in that 8-way treatment again. I do that like every year or so, just like 1 pint or so. There's a formula on there to determine how many pints you put in per, you know, gallon of water that's in your system. So let's turn this around. We're gonna do before and after for the 8-way and see if this has any effect over the next couple days. All right, so this is the last kind of flushing before the 8-way treatment. And as you can see, it does have a couple little flakes in there, slightly little brown color. And then the water up here, again, on the tube is, you know, again, a little brown. But, you know, when I came down here, this was actually perfectly clear. And I kind of flushed the valves a little bit and it stirred up some of that sediment in there. So it was clear. I think I'm getting a lot of the junk out of there, but we'll see. This 8-way, saw this one part of it here, what it claims what it does. It says it's an oxygen scavenger. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm gonna have to figure out exactly what that means, but it also controls the pH. So I would assume that it takes out the acidity of it, not the alkalinity. And then it inhibits lime scale, prevents surging and foaming, prevents boiler sludge, which probably a lot of people are interested in. But that can also be prevented by yearly maintenance and just making sure that your system is, you know, looked at and running properly, no leaks, that kind of thing. Flush out the gunk every once in a while. Removes corrosion scale. Well, that could be interesting too. And then inhibits boiler corrosion. Well, that's helpful. And then inhibits steam line corrosion. So I guess it like coats those inner parts that are, you know, cast iron, and gives it a little help. So, but I'm going to look up that word oxygen scavenger. If anybody knows what that means, leave a comment in the comments below. And then oxygen, I was always told, is a problem because that oxygen is the problem that leads to rust and whatnot. And that's really the big problem with the boilers is you know, the rust or whatever that happens. And that's just natural with water and iron. So anyhow, I'm going to add this and then we'll check in on it like, you know, in a few days and see if it helps. Oh, by the way, I have this little pour spout on top that does not come with the 8-way. I just find that it's kind of easier, you know, to get into like tight corners and stuff like that and to pour, and you get it off like Amazon or something. Yeah. I'm not even going to leave it a link. Just find it if you're interested. But they're pretty handy to, you know, have like a spout so you don't have to have like a funnel or something with you. All right, so we put the 8-way in, and you can already see it taking some effect. And I'm just running it now for about 5 or 10 minutes just to get the system started and get that 8-way pumped through the system. So let's turn it around and take a look. You can see the water is actually turning purple. All right, here we go to our handy view glass, and as you can see, that purple haze in there. So it's kind of probably going to be a little concentrated at first until it gets a chance to disperse throughout the whole system. But it's definitely in there, and it's definitely taking effect. So so far so good. Also looks pretty clear other than the purple haze. Again, that's my hand back in there. But I'll double check after a couple days gone by on the runs, and we'll see how it does. All right, we've let this thing run for about a couple of days, and it's cycled through. It definitely has turned purple, and I think it's doing what it's supposed to do by cleaning out the pipes and stuff like that in the far reaches of where the radiators are, away from the actual boiler unit itself. So I'm going to turn this around, check it out. It has a purple hue to it, but it definitely has some gunk in there. So I'm going to keep on, tweaking it a little bit, trying to drain a little bit of that gunk out of there, let it run, and see if we can get this to be nice and clear like it was. All right, so here's the goop. And as you can see, it's kind of a muddy color. I actually just stirred it up a little bit so it was a little bit more clear, but it has like a purple tinge to it, which is the color of that 8-way. And then there's the goop coming out of it. So it's doing, I think, what it's supposed to do, but we'll keep at it. All right, we're back down here after yet another day, and I'm pretty happy with the results. So I'm gonna flip this around and show you. You guys are probably getting dizzy seeing this, but here's the sight glass again, and it's had about a chance to run for about another day or so, so that steam has gone through all the pipes, and it has that nice purple color through it, which shows me that the 8-way has been run through the whole system and has coated all the pipes. And there's quite a bit less, I think they call it turbidity. That would be, cloudiness or whatever in there. So I think I got last year's gunk out of there, and I'm happy about that. So this is kind of the main one that you want to make sure you flush every once in a while. So put your bucket underneath here. I learned my lesson on that. And what you do is you just open this and close this. And my boiler guy said do that about every week or so. And what that does is there's a little float in here, and this is the electronic water level turn off control valve, turn on and off. So what that does is that senses how high this water is, and you can see that perfect level right there. Man, look at that. And it will literally tell the electronic valve, which is there, to open or close, and that is attached to the water supply. So you got fresh water coming in, and as the system uses the fresh water, it's got to be replaced by a little bit of water, fresh water. And that's normal, but hopefully your system is tight and closed and it doesn't need to. But this is a safety mechanism. So what happens is that if your water in your system has gunk in it, it'll clog that little valve inside here. Maybe I can get a picture on the internet or show you and show you what's inside of there. But there's like a little float valve or something like that in there. And that just switches off and brings more water into the system, because you don't want to have too much water or not enough water. You'll burn it up. So that's the importance of flushing that every once in a while. Okay, I lied. That last one wasn't the last. Came back the following day. So this is about a week from start to finish. And I did not run the boiler last night. So the little particles and stuff in the water have like settled a little bit and cleared up. So I just kind of wanted to show you what that would look like if it's not being agitated, right before the video. Okay, so again, this is the last one, I promise. But as you can see, the water has gotten quite a bit less cloudy, less turbidity, I think they call that, when there's like particulates or whatever in there. So looking pretty good. I think that's I'm acceptable for that, to run that for the season. If there's anybody else out there that knows more than I do about these boilers, which I'm sure there are, I just know what I've been told by people I respect and what I've been able to read, and also product literature and stuff. But I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. That'll run, and I don't think it'll clog the lines and stuff. So let's maybe I'll come back later in a few months just to check it out and see what's going on and run another update video. But I'm pretty happy with that, to run that for the season. So if there's something I'm looking or missing, and if you guys have more experience, let me know. But certainly that's not going to clog this little safety valve all on and off. And, you know, I mean, for a 20 plus, couple decade old system, I think that's pretty darn good. So, hey, real quick, if you like this video or if it helped you out in any way, hit that subscribe button. It tells me I'm doing a good job on the channel, giving you guys the content that you like, and also helps out boost the, YouTube algorithm a little bit to get us above that 1,000 mark, which is really important. So thanks so much, you guys. I hate to be begging for those subscriptions, but it's a goal of mine, and I really want to hit that goal. So if you could help me out, that would be perfect. Have a great day.